Nobody expected Caitlin Clark to respond like this. After weeks of non-stop criticism, injury rumors, media pressure, and endless debates surrounding the Indiana Fever, Clark stepped onto the court with something to prove. And by the second half, the entire arena could feel momentum shifting in real time. Every shot felt bigger, every deep three silenced critics. Every possession pushed the Golden State Valkyries closer to complete panic. But what shocked fans most was Coach Nakase's reaction after the game. Reporters kept pressing for answers, trying to understand how the Valkyries completely lost control defensively once Clark caught fire. And honestly, some fans believe Nakase's facial expressions said everything before she even answered the questions. Social media exploded instantly. Clips went viral everywhere. Analysts are now calling this one of Caitlin Clark's most important performances yet. And according to fans online, this game may have changed the entire season narrative forever. The atmosphere inside the arena already felt different before the game even started. Fans packed the building expecting intensity, drama, and another emotional chapter in the Caitlin Clark spotlight season. Cameras followed her during warm-ups. Reporters crowded the sidelines. Every move she made generated reactions online before tip-off even happened. But nobody in that building could have predicted what would unfold once the second half began. At first, things looked frustrating for Indiana. The Golden State Valkyries came out aggressive defensively. They pressured Clark early, trapped her near half-court, and forced the Fever offense into uncomfortable possessions. Social media immediately started reacting. Critics claimed Clark looked tired. Some fans worried the recent injury discussions were still affecting her confidence. Others questioned whether the Valkyries had finally discovered the perfect defensive formula to slow her down. For a moment, Indiana looked completely stuck. The Valkyries controlled the pace. Transition opportunities disappeared. Clark struggled finding rhythm early, and every missed shot triggered louder reactions online. Basketball creators on social media instantly began posting dramatic updates claiming Golden State had figured her out. Analysts started discussing whether the Fever relied too heavily on Clark offensively. But then something changed. Late in the second quarter, Clark started playing with a completely different level of aggression. You could see it in her body language immediately. The hesitation disappeared. Her pace quickened. Suddenly, she was attacking defenders instead of reacting to them. And once the second half officially started, the entire game transformed into a Caitlin Clark takeover. The first deep three shocked the crowd. Not because she made it, but because of how confident it looked. She pulled up from far beyond the arc with absolutely zero fear. The Valkyries' bench instantly reacted. Defenders started communicating louder. Fans inside the arena exploded, and social media completely lost control. Then came another shot, and another. Suddenly, Golden State's defensive strategy began collapsing in real time. The traps stopped working because Clark started reading them perfectly. Double teams created open passing lanes. Defenders hesitated for half a second, and she punished them instantly. Every possession started feeling dangerous for the Valkyries. That is when panic quietly entered the game. You could see it on the faces of defenders trying desperately to contain her. Rotations became slower. Communication looked frantic. Every time Clark crossed half-court, the crowd stood up expecting something dramatic to happen. The energy completely shifted away from Golden State. And honestly, that may have been the most impressive part of the performance. It was not just about scoring, it was about control. Clark completely changed the emotional momentum of the game by herself. 1 minute, the Fever looked overwhelmed. The next minute, the Valkyries suddenly looked nervous every time she touched the basketball. That psychological shift is what separates good players from true superstars. Then came the sequence fans will probably remember all season. Clark drilled a deep three, forced a turnover on the next possession, pushed the pace in transition, and delivered a perfect assist that sent the arena into absolute chaos. The Valkyries called timeout immediately, but by then the momentum was already gone. Fans online started calling it vintage Caitlin Clark. Others said it reminded them of her legendary college performances, where one hot streak completely destroyed opponents emotionally. Highlight clips spread everywhere within minutes. Sports pages started posting phrases like unstoppable, cold-blooded, and superstar takeover. Meanwhile, the Valkyries looked completely stunned. Coach Nakase kept trying different defensive adjustments, but nothing slowed Clark down once she found rhythm. Some possessions they trapped aggressively. Other times they switched defenders. Occasionally they tried forcing the ball out of her hands early. None of it worked consistently, and that became the real story. The Valkyries entered the second half with control of the game. By the fourth quarter, they looked like a team desperately searching for answers that simply did not exist anymore. Even commentators sounded shocked. Every big shot increased the pressure. Every assist energized Indiana further. Every reaction from the crowd made the atmosphere more intense. It stopped feeling like a regular season game and started feeling like a statement performance from a player tired of hearing criticism. Because make no mistake, Clark heard all the noise, the injury discussions, the media debates, the constant criticism online, questions about efficiency, questions about leadership, questions about whether the Fever could truly compete consistently. And for one unforgettable second half, she answered all of it the only way superstars can, by taking over the game completely. As Caitlin Clark continued torching the Valkyries in the second half, cameras kept cutting toward the Golden State bench. And honestly, fans online noticed the same thing immediately. Coach Nakase looked completely frustrated, trying to solve a problem that kept getting worse every possession. At first, the Valkyries still looked confident. Even after Clark hit a few difficult shots, Golden State players continued communicating aggressively on defense. They stayed physical. They pressured passing lanes. Bench players kept cheering loudly after defensive stops. For a while, it seemed like they still believed they could survive the storm. But then Clark entered another level entirely. The deeper the game moved into the second half, the faster Indiana's offense started flowing around her. Transition opportunities increased. Passing angles opened everywhere. Clark stopped reacting to the defense and started controlling it completely. That is when the Valkyries' energy visibly changed. Timeout huddles became longer. Defensive assignments looked confused. Players started pointing fingers after missed rotations. Every mistake became magnified because Clark punished almost every defensive breakdown instantly. And fans could see Coach Nakase searching desperately for answers. One moment she was standing with arms crossed, watching silently. The next moment she was yelling instructions toward defenders, trying to slow Clark down before another scoring run exploded. But nothing seemed to work for long. Social media instantly turned those reactions into viral content. Clips of Nakase pacing the sidelines spread everywhere online. Fans started posting captions claiming she looked completely stunned by Clark's shot-making ability. Others joked that the Valkyries bench reacted like they were watching a video game character instead of a rookie guard. Then came the moment that completely shifted internet conversation. During one possession late in the third quarter, Clark pulled up from several feet behind the three-point line and buried another deep shot with defenders already closing hard. The arena erupted instantly. Fever players jumped off the bench. Even commentators sounded speechless for a second, and the broadcast camera immediately cut toward Nakase. That reaction clip exploded online within minutes. Some fans claimed the expression on her face looked like pure disbelief. Others said it looked like she already knew the game was slipping away. Basketball creators slowed the footage down frame by frame, analyzing every emotion visible during that moment. That is how massive Caitlin Clark's spotlight has become. Even opposing coaches' reactions now become viral discussion topics across sports media. Meanwhile, Indiana kept feeding off the momentum. The Fever bench became louder after every big possession. Teammates celebrated every assist like playoff moments. Clark's confidence seemed to grow stronger every minute. Once she entered rhythm completely, Golden State defenders started hesitating before committing to traps because they feared getting exposed again. That hesitation became fatal. Clark recognized defensive uncertainty instantly and attacked it without mercy. If defenders stepped too high, she attacked downhill. If they backed away slightly, she launched another deep three. If double teams arrived late, she created easy opportunities for teammates. The Valkyries were no longer defending comfortably. They were surviving possession by possession. And honestly, fans online loved every second of it. After weeks of criticism surrounding Clark's performances, many supporters viewed this game as personal redemption. Every highlight felt emotional. Every shot felt like a response to doubters. Comment sections exploded with fans claiming this was the exact performance they had been waiting for all season. Some analysts even started comparing the atmosphere to Clark's biggest college games. The emotional intensity felt similar. The crowd energy felt similar. The sense that one player completely controlled the emotional direction of the entire arena felt identical to her most iconic NCAA performances. Meanwhile, pressure on the Valkyries kept increasing. Golden State players started forcing shots offensively, trying to answer Clark's scoring runs too quickly. Transition defense became sloppier. Communication errors increased. The more aggressive Indiana became, the more rushed the Valkyries started looking. That is when people realized this was no longer just a hot streak. This was psychological domination. Clark was not simply making shots. She was breaking the confidence of the defense guarding her. Every difficult basket drained more energy from Golden State. Every crowd eruption increased pressure further. Every timeout felt more desperate than the previous one. And through all of it, Coach Nakase kept searching for a defensive adjustment that never truly arrived. By the fourth quarter, fans online had already declared the game over emotionally, even before the final buzzer sounded. Because once Caitlin Clark reaches that level of confidence, opponents often realize something terrifying. There may not actually be an answer at all. By the start of the fourth quarter, one thing had become painfully obvious for the Golden State Valkyries. Caitlin Clark was no longer just having a good game. She was completely taking over the entire night. The energy inside the arena felt electric every time she touched the basketball. Fans stood before shots were even released. Commentators raised their voices during every fast break. Even neutral viewers online admitted something special was happening in real time. And the most dangerous part for Golden State? Clark looked completely fearless. Every possession felt like she was hunting another big moment. She attacked defenders confidently, pushed the pace relentlessly, and played with the kind of swagger that instantly changes the emotional balance of a game. That confidence spread across the entire Fever roster. Teammates started playing faster. Defensive rotations became sharper. Indiana suddenly looked like a completely different team compared to the nervous group fans saw earlier in the game. One superstar performance had transformed the entire atmosphere. Meanwhile, the Valkyries looked emotionally exhausted. Every time Golden State attempted building momentum, Clark answered immediately. A transition three, a no-look assist, a deep pull-up from near the logo. The Fever crowd exploded louder after every possession, and the pressure on the Valkyries kept multiplying. That is when frustration started becoming visible everywhere. Golden State defenders began reacting emotionally after foul calls. Communication broke down repeatedly. Bench players looked stunned watching another Clark highlight appear seconds later on the arena screen, and social media completely lost its mind. Fans started posting clips calling this the arrival game of Caitlin Clark's rookie season. Others claimed this was the exact performance the WNBA had been waiting for. Sports pages flooded timelines with highlights showing impossible shots, transition plays, and reactions from the crowd. But perhaps the most impressive part of Clark's performance was not even the scoring itself. It was the control. She dictated everything happening on the floor. When Indiana needed pace, she accelerated the game instantly. When teammates needed confidence, she created easy opportunities. When defenders hesitated, she attacked aggressively. Every decision felt calculated, confident, and emotionally devastating for Golden State. That is superstar basketball. And the Valkyries had absolutely no answer once she entered that zone. Several analysts later pointed out how quickly Golden State's defensive structure collapsed once Clark forced constant adjustments. Defenders started overhelping near the perimeter, which opened driving lanes everywhere. Once help defenders collapsed inward, Clark punished them with kick-out passes and transition creation. It became impossible to defend consistently. And honestly, that is what separates elite players from ordinary stars. Great players score. Superstars control the emotional rhythm of entire games. By the middle of the fourth quarter, the Valkyries were no longer playing confidently. They were reacting emotionally to every possession, hoping Indiana would finally cool off naturally. But Clark never slowed down. If anything, she became more aggressive. One possession in particular completely broke the internet. Clark crossed half-court, hesitated for a split second, then launched an unbelievably deep three, while defenders scrambled desperately toward her. The shot dropped cleanly. The arena erupted instantly. Fever players jumped off the bench, screaming. Even opposing fans online admitted the shot felt ridiculous, and again cameras immediately found Coach Nakase. That reaction spread everywhere. Fans claimed she looked completely speechless, watching at another impossible shot fall through the net. Some viewers even joked that the Valkyries looked mentally defeated before the game officially ended. Whether that was fair or not, perception had already taken over reality. Because once sports fans emotionally connect to a superstar performance, every moment becomes part of the legend. And make no mistake, this performance started feeling legendary. Not just because of the scoring numbers, but because of the timing. Clark entered this game surrounded by criticism, pressure, injury discussions, and non-stop debate about her performances. Critics questioned her efficiency. Analysts questioned Indiana's consistency. Social media debated whether expectations around her were becoming unrealistic. Then she delivered this. A second-half explosion against a desperate defense under national attention. That is exactly how superstar narratives are built. Suddenly, the conversation shifted completely. Instead of debating struggles, fans started asking whether this was the turning point for Indiana's entire season. Commentators began discussing momentum, confidence, and leadership again. Sports media immediately reframed Clark from under pressure to unstoppable superstar, and perhaps that was the biggest victory of all. She changed the narrative in a single night. By the time the final minutes arrived, the Valkyries looked emotionally drained. The crowd was completely energized, and Caitlin Clark stood at the center of another unforgettable basketball moment. And according to fans online, this may have been the exact game that reminded the entire league who the biggest star in women's basketball really is. By the time the final buzzer started approaching, the basketball conversation online had completely transformed. Earlier in the night, critics questioned whether Caitlin Clark was still struggling under pressure. But after that unbelievable second-half performance, social media looked like a celebration party for the biggest star in women's basketball. Every platform exploded simultaneously. Twitter timelines flooded with highlight clips within seconds. TikTok edits appeared almost instantly, showing Clark draining impossible threes while dramatic music played in the background. YouTube creators rushed to upload reaction videos before the game even ended. Sports pages started posting captions calling the performance legendary, cold-blooded, and the takeover game. And honestly, fans were eating it up. Because performances like this are exactly what transformed Caitlin Clark into a global basketball phenomenon in the first place. The confidence, the deep shooting, the emotional swagger, the ability to completely shift momentum by herself. Everything fans loved during her college career suddenly returned in one explosive second half. That is why this game felt bigger than a normal regular season win. To many supporters, it felt personal. For weeks, Clark had faced non-stop criticism online. Every missed shot became a debate. Every turnover generated headlines. Analysts questioned her efficiency. Critics claimed professional defenses had finally figured her out. Some sports personalities even suggested the hype surrounding her career was beginning to cool down. Then she responded like this: under pressure, on national attention, against a defense desperately trying to stop her. That is why the emotional reaction online became so intense. Fans started posting phrases like, "Superstars answer criticism differently, and this is why she changes the league." Others claimed the performance reminded them exactly why Clark became one of the most talked about athletes in America before even entering the WNBA. Meanwhile, the Valkyries unfortunately became part of the storyline. Once the momentum fully shifted, social media users started analyzing every reaction from Golden State players and coaches. Clips of defenders looking frustrated spread rapidly online. Fans zoomed in on timeout huddles trying to read body language. Every camera shot of Coach Nakase instantly became meme material across basketball pages. Some fans even claimed the Valkyries looked mentally defeated before the game officially ended. Whether that was completely fair or not almost stopped mattering because the internet had already decided the narrative. And that narrative was simple. Caitlin Clark completely broke Golden State's defense emotionally. Even sports commentators started discussing how different Indiana looked once Clark found confidence offensively. The spacing improved. Teammates played freer. Transition opportunities appeared everywhere. One player's energy changed the emotional identity of the entire team. That is superstar impact, not just statistics. Influence, and perhaps the craziest part of the entire situation was how quickly public opinion shifted again. Earlier narratives about struggles, injuries, and inconsistency suddenly disappeared from timelines almost overnight. Instead, fans began asking whether this game could become the turning point of Indiana's season. Analysts debated whether Clark had finally adjusted fully to the speed and physicality of professional basketball. Others took things even further. Some supporters claimed this performance officially announced the beginning of Caitlin Clark's revenge tour against critics. Dramatic edits spread everywhere, showing media criticism clips followed by highlights from the game. Basketball creators leaned fully into the emotional storyline because they knew audiences loved redemption narratives. And honestly, redemption stories dominate sports culture for a reason. Fans connect emotionally to athletes overcoming pressure. The bigger the criticism becomes, the more satisfying the comeback feels. That emotional cycle creates legendary sports moments. And according to many fans online, this game officially entered that category. Meanwhile, Indiana Fever players also started feeding into the emotional energy after the game. Celebrations looked louder. Interviews sounded more confident. The locker room atmosphere reportedly felt completely different compared to recent weeks filled with pressure and controversy. Winning changes everything in sports, but superstar performances change even more, because one unforgettable night can completely reshape public perception. And Caitlin Clark may have done exactly that. By the end of the night, basketball media was no longer discussing whether Clark belonged among elite WNBA stars. The conversation had evolved into something much bigger. How dangerous can Indiana become if Caitlin Clark continues playing like this consistently? That question suddenly terrified the rest of the league. Because if this second-half takeover was truly the beginning of another level for Clark, then every opponent in the WNBA may have a serious problem moving forward. And judging by the reactions online, fans already believe the warning signs are impossible to ignore now. After the final buzzer sounded, one feeling completely dominated basketball conversations everywhere. Something had changed. This did not feel like an ordinary regular season performance anymore. It felt like a moment fans would look back on later and say, that was the night everything shifted for Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever, because the timing could not have been bigger. Clark entered this game surrounded by non-stop pressure. Media debates questioned her consistency. Critics analyzed every shooting performance. Injury discussions created even more noise around the Fever organization. Some analysts even wondered whether the emotional pressure of carrying the league's spotlight was starting to affect her confidence. Then she delivered one of the most explosive second halves of the season. And suddenly, the conversation changed completely. Instead of questioning her ability to dominate at the professional level, fans started wondering how unstoppable Indiana could become if Clark continues playing with this level of confidence. Sports shows immediately shifted tone. Commentators sounded energized, again discussing her superstar potential. Social media stopped focusing on criticism and started celebrating the performance like a cultural moment. That is the power of one legendary game. It can rewrite the narrative overnight. And honestly, the Fever needed this badly. For weeks, Indiana felt trapped between massive expectations and constant controversy. Every game carried enormous emotional pressure because the spotlight around Clark never disappears. Even small struggles become national headlines when millions of people are watching every possession closely. But this performance reminded everyone why the excitement around her became so massive in the first place. She creates moments, not just highlights. Moments. The kind that completely take over arenas, dominate sports media, and emotionally pull fans into the experience. During that second half explosion, it felt like every possession could become historic. Every deep three increased the energy. Every assist created more momentum. Every reaction from the crowd made the atmosphere feel larger than basketball itself. And perhaps most importantly, her teammates fed off that confidence too. Several analysts pointed out how much freer Indiana looked offensively once Clark fully settled into rhythm. Players cut harder, defenders played more aggressively. The entire team's emotional energy shifted upward. That matters long-term, because championship-level teams often develop identity through emotional momentum. One defining performance can strengthen belief inside a locker room dramatically. Suddenly, players trust each other more. Coaches gain confidence in adjustments. Teams stop playing cautiously and start playing fearlessly. That possibility now has the rest of the WNBA paying attention. Because if Clark continues producing performances like this consistently, Indiana instantly becomes one of the league's most dangerous teams, emotionally. Opponents may survive average nights, but once Clark catches fire like she did against Golden State, everything changes quickly, and fans already sense it. That is why social media reactions became so emotional after the game ended. Many supporters believe this performance officially marked the beginning of Clark's true superstar takeover at the professional level. Others called it the arrival moment that proves she can dominate against elite defenses under pressure. Even critics admitted the second half looked special. Meanwhile, coach Nakase's reactions during the game continued spreading online everywhere. Basketball pages replayed every timeout clip and sideline reaction repeatedly. Fans joked that the Valkyries looked completely helpless once Clark entered rhythm. Memes flooded timelines within hours. That is how modern sports culture works now. One unforgettable performance instantly becomes internet history. And Caitlin Clark seems built perfectly for moments like these. The drama, the spotlight, the pressure, the emotional chaos surrounding every game. Instead of shrinking under it, she often becomes even more dangerous once momentum starts building around her. That is what separates stars from icons. And according to many fans watching that game, they may have witnessed the exact moment Clark crossed into a completely different level of superstardom. Now the pressure shifts toward the rest of the league, because if Indiana finally discover the formula to unlock this version of Caitlin Clark consistently, then every WNBA defense may soon face the same terrifying reality Golden State experienced during that second half. There might not actually be a defensive answer once she fully takes control of the game. Did Caitlin Clark just deliver the performance that changed the entire WNBA season? or are fans getting carried away after one unbelievable second-half takeover against the Valkyries? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because basketball fans everywhere are debating whether this was Clark's true superstar arrival moment at the professional level. And if you want more viral WNBA breakdowns, emotional game analysis, behind-the-scenes drama, and non-stop Caitlin Clark coverage the sports world cannot stop talking about, make sure you subscribe right now, turn on notifications, and stay locked in because the next legendary performance could happen sooner than anyone expects.